In order to get these FKTs, you have to put yourself out there. Failure is certainly an option. And that's a really hard thing with what you do and putting yourself out there. And in fact, I'm putting myself out there in a number of ways with raising money, doing a fundraiser for the Trevor Project too, because I'm weird and different, and getting people who are weird and different more support, I think, is very important. It's when you have a platform, you should be using it to build people up and entertain, which is probably why you're here. And this episode is an awesome one. So consider donating over on thetrevorproject.com/JeffAT. Link is going to be in the description too, because I'm not going to require you to go from audio to, what do you call it, typing out? Auditory to touch to sensory. Okay, this is John Kelly. So he went for the Appalachian Trail Record going northbound this year, and about 300 miles from the northern terminus, things went awry. He got hurt. It didn't pan out, but he was well above or under record pace. So we have a really good chat about that and what's surrounding these FKTs, what goes into it, kind of how they fit into a life, and especially something that is so long, like 40 days. He has a family too. How sometimes it might be the only shot for you to go after it. So I'm on the Appalachian Trail right now, so you can support and send good vibes my way. I don't know if vibes help at all, but you can also support by going to patreon.com/freeoutside, subscribing, 5 stars for the podcast. And I don't think I need to do any more of an introduction other than support the fundraiser of the Trevor Project. It does mean a lot to me. I'm different. We're all different. Let's help different people find their place in the world, especially through those hard teenage years and times when every little thing feels like every big thing. All right, here is John Kelly. Today on the Free Outside podcast, we are joined by John Kelly about a month after his attempt on the Appalachian Trail. So first off, how do you say the AT? When you're talking to someone, how do you say it?
Just like you did at
Okay.
Appalachian Trail. It's and apparently someone told me this while I was out there. I need to look this up, that it's derived from a Native American word that is in fact pronounced Appalach rather than Lacha. So, you know, we've got some good justification there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I have it right before I'm out there, and I just spent a couple weeks in the Northeast, and
Well, yeah,
they do it different.
Just switch when you cross the Mason-Dixon line, and you'll be good.
Yeah, like making a video, and then as soon as I cross the line, I start saying it completely different. I think That's the way. So when did you start concocting the idea of going for the Appalachian Trail Record? Because it's been many years in the making in your mind, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's always kind of been the holy grail for me of FKTs, of doing these sort of long multi-day things in general. It's also always, though, kind of been like, like, will I ever actually get that much time to be able to do that? And I wasn't sure if I would. So I've kind of had this in the back of my mind for many years, and it was really just in the past year that it finally kind of, things clicked and came together, and I said, you know what, I can actually take a shot at this year. I can take the time off from work. I didn't get into Western States and hard rock yet again, so, let's find something to do this summer.
Yeah, it does. The Long Trail Record, going for that, supported a couple years ago, was that part of a stepping stone into the AT, or was that a one-off leading into it?
Yeah, not really, to be honest. I just wanted to do the Long Trail.
Okay.
It was, there's a handful of these kind of ones I've got in my mind. I feel like 3 to 5 days is kind of the sweet spot for me in terms of lining up with my capabilities and what I enjoy, and also having time to do it. Mm-hmm. So the Long Trail falls right in that time window, and so it was a good one to take a shot at.
Yeah, luckily a bunch of amazing trails fall right in that level too. So yeah. John Muir Trails right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that one is really high on my list. That's got a special place for me. My wife and I thru hiked that about 12 years ago, and really kind of what reignited my love of the mountains. But that one is logistically much more difficult. It's much more difficult for support to actually meet you anywhere out there. Living where I do, it's much more difficult to get to that one. And I have also never really fared well at altitude. So still kind of need to figure that one out.
Yeah, it'd only be like 2 vertical miles higher than where you live. No big
Yeah,
deal.
that's it. No problem.
So going into these FKTs and races or Barkley per se, are you looking, let's take the AT for example, are you looking at the current record or are you looking at it to get the most out of yourself?
The latter, for sure. So when I put my plan and my schedule together for the AT, I didn't look at anyone's splits. I didn't look at Carl's schedule. I did, I copy pasted that into a separate tab in my spreadsheet, and I looked at it kind of after the fact and occasionally while I was on the trail to kind of gauge where I was. But in putting my plans together, I didn't look at that at all. I've realized you kind of have to do these things your own way, what suits you best in order to get the best out of yourself. And also, if you're just aiming for what's already there, you run a risk of doing just enough. Like, it's mentally really easy to be like, okay, I've got this. I can kind of just like chill and cruise to the end here. And, on the Pennine Way a few years ago, I came in just under a 30-year-old record, and then my pal Damian Hall smashed what I did a week later, so I had to go back and do that one a second time.
Yeah. How do you share with crew and support so we're not going for just under the record, we're going for this different schedule that's more suited to what I'm doing? Does that involve a lot more sharing and trust on your part because it's not following a template that's been there? It's what you're good at, not what has been done well before you.
Yeah, it is a lot of sharing and a lot of openness. My kind of general schedule was for a while open to anyone on the internet that had the hyperlink to it, and I'm sure that was shared fairly broadly, but I intentionally tried to kind of be vague about what the overall schedule was and instead just do it in chunks without kind of factoring in my sleep and rest and weather conditions and all that. So people, the way I had it, people would be able to see a few days ahead of when I arrived to their area what I expected to do through that area. But also, to be honest, my schedule on the AT, kind of my plan, wasn't as accurate ahead of time as some of the other things I've done. I think in part because it was so long. I've never done a 40-day thing before. So I didn't properly account for, you have this adaptation phase, and a lot of thru hikers go through this as well, where it's kind of like day 6 to maybe 10 or 12, you're hurting and your body's trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And so I went through that myself on the AT, and in that window I really fell behind what my planned schedule was. But then I came out of that window after my body had adapted a bit, and I started destroying my splits. And so, it was this kind of bounce back where I was actually doing better than I planned on doing at that point in time. And then I hit, the rough technical terrain again and slowed down.
Isn't it a magical thing, just for lots of thru hiking and FKTs too? It's like week 2, it's like 2 weeks in, you get this massive hunger and your body knows how to do just one thing. It's almost like you've turned it into this machine that probably couldn't function in any other way except for what you forced 2 weeks upon it.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the legs. Like, it's funny you used the word hunger. I mean, literally, like, my stomach, my mouth, everything changed. I had some hunger, like some stomach issues early on with some bloat and not being able to get some things down as much as I wanted to. I was getting like ulcers on my tongue and all sorts of dry mouth, cotton mouth issues from just trying to cram in as much junk food as possible. And then like 2 or 3 weeks in, all that in my mouth went away, and my stomach just incinerated anything that went down my throat. Like absolutely everything adapted, and it was pretty cool. And that even had to like unadapt afterwards, where my my body got used to eating all this super sugary, bland food, and then afterwards, anything that had like even the slightest bit of seasoning or spice, I couldn't take it. I had to readjust to eating normal food.
Yeah, it's so cool that it's like the shared experience of whether you're doing 50, 60 miles a day or 20 miles a day. It's this human adaptation process too, of just like the thru hiker feels the same thing. And I think it's as much repetition, or that metric everyone loves of like time on feet, that adapts your body even more than the actual miles you're doing per day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the case. And I do think that's something that I wish I had done a bit more of beforehand, is just like time on feet, possibly even with a pack. I mean, even though I was supported and not carrying much, I got some pretty bad foot pain early on. And I've had that before on through hikes as well, where it's just like a few days in, my feet aren't used to taking that much of a pounding. So that's something that I think I could have done a bit better going in, to where the adaptation curve wasn't quite as steep for me.
Yeah. Do you think with your style, which is very calculated, I mean, your blog is amazing, randomforestrunner.com, do you, was it hard with a 40-day effort, or roughly, to plan things out the way you like to, but also know that there's these massive unknowns that are going to come as far as weather and, you know, who's going to be out there and how you're feeling? Was it a totally different world coming from, you know, that 5-day magic period into 40 days?
Yeah, I definitely had kind of I always do these things with a bit of an uncertainty cone. And so kind of at any point along my schedule, looking forward, I have this cone of uncertainty, and the farther forward I'm looking, the more of a buffer I have in terms of time ahead or behind my schedule. And so I really just looked at that as something like this, as a moving window. So again, I was never looking 40 days ahead. I was looking like a few days ahead from wherever I was. But still, that was tough with the conditions. I mean, you expect bad conditions sometimes, but I had storms every day for the first 8 days, and I mean, it really it mentally crushed me, just like getting hit by a thunderstorm every single afternoon. And then the week after that, I had searing heat every day, and so that was rough. I think that it did kind of adapt my body to later on. When the heat returned later in my attempt, I was kind of like still cruising along, and some of my support runners were struggling who hadn't gone through that heat adaptation. But then there are things too that, like, I gotta admit, I did not see triple digit heat index in Vermont. Like that was not in my forecast of things that I was like, hey, I'm gonna get to Vermont and it's gonna be 2 of the 5 hottest days ever on record.
Yeah.
Wasn't something I was thinking about. And to be honest, as much as I did know and like mentally prepare myself for some of the tougher sections of trail, like the really rocky stretch of Pennsylvania going into the White Mountains, I did kind of, in my plan, underestimate those a bit. And that's something that I can't do. Like, I lay out my schedule based on the grade adjusted pace, but that doesn't take into account how technical the terrain is. And if I don't have that personal, intimate knowledge of every mile of the trail, I can't account for that. And I didn't properly account for that in a few spots.
Yeah, I believe you said it was as hard a trail as Barkley or something along those lines.
In the White Mountains, you know, my mind and body were a bit biased by having 1,800 miles on them at that point. But some of those climbs, I was definitely like going up Kinsman, going down Musalak. It was I was going slower than I would go at Barkley.
Yeah, the Beaver Brook Trail descending Moosalok the way you went, that one just lives in my head rent free of like always fear of just how steep that is.
Yeah, yeah, that was rough for sure. And you know, maybe I should have even taken it a bit easier at that point. To be honest, I don't know if having those hot days in Vermont and then kind of hitting the whites hard at the beginning possibly caused my injury. You know, so I think in hindsight, being able to adjust to those conditions and kind of just be like, hey, chill, like take it easy
Yeah.
and get through this may have been the better approach there.
And how did you treat support? Because it sounded like there were hundreds of people involved in some of these groups and things. And how did that affect you, or were people handling all the logistics? Because it seems like a lot was going on external to your attempt in organizing who was going to be out where and supporting and a choir singing to you and all kinds of stuff like that. How is that handled?
Yeah, so I kind of had things divided into run support, road support, and logistics support. So I had a team of people that their entire role was to just be at their computer or on their phone and like checking the schedule, confirming people are going to be at the right spots, finding people to come in if anything changed or someone wasn't going to make it. And they were incredible, like
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. I know that there were some last minute scurrying to get some people for some of the sections. Some last minute changes, some difficulties where you know run support wasn't able to make it to some spots. I mean, car trouble. I think in Shenandoah, someone hit a deer driving in to get to the road crossing where we were supposed to be, and we had some run support some road support that had to get swapped out in the middle. So all of that was just incredible with it happening and me not having to think about it for the most part. Like all of that was happening behind the scenes. I did as much as I could, like everything to prepare all that ahead of time and to give them all the possible resources. But once I started from Springer, like they took care of it. And I didn't have to think about it. And there was only like a few really short sections where I ended up on my own. And it was, yeah, just an amazing job by a huge team of people rotating in.
Yeah. Did you, when you had a number of pacers with you, how did you divide up kind of who's carrying your water? Was there like a person you knew better, or like a key pacer that would be carrying the bulk of the important stuff? Because you mentioned that some people had heat problems and stuff too, and if you lost a key person, you'd be having to like carry an armful of stuff because you probably weren't prepared with the pack out there. How did you divvy up the support?
Yeah, we adjusted that a bit as we learned during the attempt. Also did just kind of depend on who was with me at any given time and how many people were with me at any given time. There was generally one person behind me that would have like the water and the tailwind and whatever I was going to need next to hand to me. Early on, we had like someone on navigation out front, making sure I didn't make any wrong turns, and then someone with most of the stuff behind me. But then we learned like, hey, what if that person behind me starts to struggle and drops back? The person in front of me doesn't have any of the stuff. So we started divvying things out a bit more. And you know, if I did have more than two people, that was just more that we could distribute things amongst, and it was a bit of a relay. Like if I had multiple people behind me, it's like, hey, who's got the Reese's Puffs bars? And like just echo back, like, do you have them? Do you have? Oh, I've got one, and they just pass it forward like a baton all the way up to me.
Yeah. And so would like pacers would show up and then they'd be handed like a bag of stuff that they're taking for you and then they'd join you. Is that sort of how it went?
Yeah, I had some massive waist belts
Okay.
to where people could just kind of put that on and keep it separate without having to repack their own stuff. Some people did that. Some people preferred to pack it in their own pack, which is fine. So it was just kind of whatever worked for them best. Show up at the road crossing, hopefully a bit before I got there to where they could do that and take care of it and get updated instructions, and then afterwards kind of pass along updates to those instructions. And that was just kind of the continuous evolution of what worked best, what I was actually eating or not eating at the time, all of that. So it really was a learning process for all of us out there throughout the attempt.
So you became pretty well known for making a daily video out there. So would you have like 10 people behind you and you're just talking to this camera, but your pacers are all around too?
No, I generally asked people to go out front a little bit while I did it because I felt really awkward. If like
I was gonna say, yeah.
yeah, so I try to do it on a kind of gradual uphill, a midday gradual uphill when it was hot and I needed to kind of just like chill a bit anyway. But yeah, I feel like I can do a video where I kind of just feel like I'm talking to myself much more easily than I could like talking with. I know that most of them they're gonna watch it later, like they're gonna see it later, but it felt easier if I was just, hey, y'all just go out in front like a minute or two and I'm gonna do this quick video and then catch up.
Yeah, so you're not a natural influencer. You can't just perform with everyone watching.
No, yeah, that is the thing. Like I did almost feel like I was talking to myself, and it was just honestly it was nice to have just those few minutes every day where I could distract myself from what I had in front of me, what I was any rough feelings I was having at the moment, and kind of just get some positive energy into myself, which I could then try to reflect in the video. So that I think was good for me. And I was like, I did them all in one take. I think there's just like one where I accidentally hit stop early, or a drop of sweat hit the stop button or something, and I had to redo it. But I pretty much did them all in one take. I was pretty happy with that.
Isn't that the worst in the humidity when your sweat's on your phone and you can't get the screen to work?
Yeah, and especially when I keep dipping my hat, and then the water would run off the bill of my hat onto my phone as I'm like trying to look at the far out maps or something. And I keep, switching off what I'm trying to look at. So I learned to put my hat backwards, which is kind of nice because then the water drips off the bill onto my back, and it helps cool me down a bit more instead of just, falling off the front of me.
So the AT made you a backwards hat guy? So you're like full dad mode now?
Actually, what originally did that was when I was in the UK, and they taught me that when it gets super windy up there, which it does, like bad, you flip your hat backwards, and that keeps it from getting blown off your head. So, yeah, when I dip my hat in a creek or when it's really windy, that's when I'm a backwards hat person.
I mean, that's like dad mode achieved. Cool and functional. Like it covers both of them. So what was it like having your family around the attempt for some of it too? Did that bring new life into it and everything?
Yeah, it was great to be able to have them at the start, and then as I passed through my home area, and then rejoining me for the finish, finish what would have been the finish, the last couple weeks on the trail. And It's also tough because it's like realistically, I'm only seeing them for a bit at road crossings, and I'm trying to get all this other stuff done and keep moving as well. So it was great when I could see them at the final stop of the day and have a little bit more time, but often the final stop of the day was after the kids' bedtime. So I did, while I was out there, I had like tons of visions in my head of like, oh man, I'm gonna finish, and then we're gonna go to Acadia, and we're gonna go back through like Boiling Springs and Shenandoah and see all these awesome places that I saw on the way up. And to be honest, that didn't happen. We all kind of just wanted to get home, and so there again is something where I think that the southbound option may have been better. Like go up there, spend some time beforehand when I'm not wrecked and we're all still fresh, and then kind of be running home, which I've found in doing like the Pennine Way again is actually really motivational to have that kind of magnetic pull towards home.
Yeah. Do you, in your calculations, which are vast and well known, does that emotional support and family support, does that make up for maybe the extra minutes you're spending each day not moving? Like, does that help overall in these kind of efforts?
It does. Again, I wasn't stopping a huge deal more when they were there, but yeah, having like a minute or two extra here and there, I think that's totally worth it. More so like coming into those stops than leaving them. Because like coming into it, you're looking forward to it, and you're like, oh, I gotta get there, and especially if it is that last stop of the day, and you're like, crap, I gotta get there before bedtime, and it does kind of pull you in. Whereas leaving, it might be a bit difficult, but overall, I think it definitely does make up for the extra bit of time spent at those stops.
Yeah. And what do they think of what you're doing? Because is the youngest 4 or?
Yeah, and that was another logistical challenge. You're not allowed above tree line in Baxter State Park if you're under 5. So as far as like if I got into Katahdin and then being
Are
able
they
to,
checking IDs up there? Come on.
I
Is there a
don't know,
bouncer?
man. They're strict.
I
Like
know. Scott Jurek. Just ask
so
him.
many rules.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was something I was trying to figure out beforehand of like all the rules to actually get into Baxter and Summit Katahdin and for my family to be there. That was tricky. But yeah, they're kind of the oldest in particular, I think is old enough to kind of appreciate more what I'm doing, and at that phase in school where his friends and his teachers are like, wait, what? Your dad does what? Whereas earlier in life, it's just like, hey, this is what's normal. This is, everyone does things like this, right? Because dad does this all the time. So they are now just kind of getting to that spot where I don't know if appreciate is the right word, because when I'm out there, I don't want them to be like, oh, I'm going to be a ridiculously long distance trail runner. But I do want them to see me kind of doing hard things and pursuing my passion, and going for it. Although my oldest now has said that he either wants to be an NBA player or
Very
a trail
smart.
runner and do the
Oh,
AT.
nope. Nope.
So it's quite the choice there. One of them is a bit more financially lucrative, but I also don't know that he has the right genes for that one. So we'll see.
Yeah. Lucky for you, kid. The choice will probably be made for you.
Yeah, yeah. Unless he can really work on his outside shot, I don't think I don't think the NBA is in his future.
Yeah. Muggsy Bogues could probably only exist in the 90s.
Yep.
How do you balance these multi-day efforts around being a dad and having a family and kids involved in tons of stuff? And yeah, how do you fit it in? And it's not, I think people can see the effort in like 40 days, But I think it's all the training and everything leading into that you have to put in the time valuing the kids' activities as well that people lose sight of.
Yeah, it's tough. And there have been a lot of creative long runs and long bike rides over the years, back when I was doing triathlon in particular, where it's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna go on this run, and then y'all are gonna get up and drive and meet me at the end of this, and we're gonna have a day out at like this park or this other place, and that's gonna be great fun. And I also work around their schedule as much as possible. I'm kind of in the fortunate spot where I've done a startup, which for a while meant that like I was working ridiculous hours, but they were flexible when exactly I was doing that work. And so I would try to get my work and my running in around like when the kids are at school or when they're at other activities. Now my workload fortunately has reduced to a more reasonable amount, but I still have that flexibility. So again, I try to do all of these things while the kids are at school, or I've done my fair share of like doing my run around a soccer field or a baseball field, just any way possible to kind of get it in the least disruptive way possible.
Yeah, I just imagine you in the earlier days of the startup, like in your skin tight suit in the office, taking meetings from your bike, and just putting it on mute while you do an interval or something.
Yeah, there was a day where I forgot to bring in my change. Like I always, back when I had to go into an office every day, I did a run or a bike commute. Like that was my weekday training in its entirety. That's the only way I got it in. And there was one day where I biked in and I forgot my change of clothes. Specifically, I forgot my pants. I had my like dress shirt, but no pants.
Oh
And there were
no.
4 interns starting that day, like actually working for me. And so here I am in like my button-up dress shirt and then just like bike shorts on at the bottom. And I don't know if they thought it was some kind of weird power move or something, but I legit just forgot my pants, and that's how I spent my day at work.
That is such a good power move, though, in the future. Just come in dressed like that, maybe eating a donut, just haphazard, asking them to get you a coffee or something. A quick break to talk about what I am wearing during this FKT, and spoiler alert, it's all Janji. So I'm wearing the men's Trekker snappy shirt, the reverse paisley color. Why? Because it's short sleeve and it's quick drying, and it's just really easy to open up and get a little bit more ventilation when humidity is going to be high out there on the AT. I'm also wearing the men's AFO middle short ultra. I wear a size medium. They're just great because they have pockets, and the world just needs more pockets. I can keep a bunch of snacks in my pockets, and I have hip belt pockets and side pockets and front pockets. So I just need food everywhere because I'm going to be eating between 8 and 10,000 calories a day. So I love the pockets on the men's AFO middle short ultra from Janji. And then the AFO hyperlight visor. Do visors look dumb? I don't know, but I'm in my 30s now, so it doesn't really matter. And they're just cool. I can put a bandana or a towel to cover my neck in the sun, or if I stick that bandana or towel in the water, it's just really good and cooling. So that is what I'm wearing. Shop at janji.com. Use code FREEOUTSIDE for a discount and tell them I sent you. Back to the episode. Yeah, man. So as like going back to the AT, you wrote a really good post about the things that kind of went wrong or things you would change. Is that something you're immediately thinking or thinking during the attempt when you're out there, or does it take some time after something that's 5 weeks long of pushing to kind of unravel what did happen out there?
I think identifying some of the problems happens while I'm out there. Some of them, like, it's right in your face. Like, hey, I've got all these blisters on my feet and I can barely walk at the beginning of it. Like, every single day. I even had to tell my support runners, like, guys, it's going to probably take like half an hour for all these blisters on my feet to go numb before I can actually start to run again. and that's what would happen. But then like throughout the day, I'd have to deal with those, and they altered my gait for sure. And that's another thing that I think could have contributed to my injury at the end, was just uh, my body trying to compensate for that altered gait. So like, yeah, I've got all these foot blisters is definitely a problem that was right in my face pretty much the entire time. When I fell behind on sleep that first week, that's something that I identified and changed during the attempt itself. Like going into it, I thought, 5 hours in bed each night, getting 3 sleep cycles worth of sleep, like I'll be good on that. I've done that before, unfortunately. And I'll be fine. But then I found that I really needed to be in bed for about 6 hours for me to not be struggling to stay awake the next day. And so that's something that I actually changed during the attempt, and started getting a bit more sleep while I was out there. But some of the
Yeah.
stuff, like the blisters, yeah, I identify it during, but then as far as like what I could possibly do to prevent it next time, that's something I think about afterwards.
And unfortunately, I would say 95% of through hikers will say that's kind of part of it. Like if you went back and did the AT again, maybe you deal with them less, but it's almost just like what happens over those first 2 weeks is when you throw yourself into that extremely rough period, there's just adapting all over your body, from the chafing to the feet to the stomach to even, yeah, what you're consuming and stuff out there too.
Yeah, I mean, like the feet, I think there's definitely some preventative taping that I could have done. I just, I got blisters on. I've never had blister problems before, so these weren't things that I was like thinking about or trying to prevent beforehand. If I did it again, I definitely would. I would try to soften up some of the calluses that I've got on like my heels, because when you get a blister underneath that, it's really difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Like you can't really pop it, you can't do much about it. It's really painful. So it's much better to get a blister under normal skin than it is under a callus. So there are a few things that I could do, and that first week particularly, like, and even that second week when it was so hot, like those first 2 weeks, my feet were almost constantly wet and moist, whether from the rain or from sweat. So I think just changing my socks and shoes more often, adding some more powder in my socks could have helped a bit. I don't think it could have prevented them entirely, but I think it could have made them a bit less bad.
Have you considered going barefoot?
No, that's never quite come to mind. It's out there. We'll add that to the list of choices that you can make.
Yeah, you can explore this strategy while running around Frozen Head State Park.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And then, so how are you dealing with things, especially in that first 2 weeks as you're realizing and adjusting things? Are you open with the pacers and the crew, and how are you deciding what to share as far as this is a me problem or this is a we problem?
I mean, pretty open with my road crew. Is my run support is they're rotating throughout. Like I wanted to try to keep people fairly local and not have people committing a huge chunk to coming out there, or like traveling great distances to run with me. So they're constantly rotating in and out. The road support though was much more consistent and with me for longer stretches of time. So that's the people that I'm trying to work through these things with and share more of like how things are going, how things are changing, and because I mean they're probably going to have better ideas than I am, particularly as they're in like a more coherent state, and even like then between road crossings, they can even ask Dr. Google, like, hey, what's going on? What could we possibly do here? Whereas obviously I can't do that
Don't
while,
show your age. It's
you know.
Chat GPT these
Oh
days.
yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah, much better option in general.
So you'll share with like the road crew and they can solve things along the way. But how about things like maybe you're not eating enough and that's concerning you? Are you sharing that, or are you like how are you managing some of these things early on that are maybe doubts or worries, but it's sort of one of those things that is just going to have to be worked through because something's so long, things come up.
Yeah, I think that my support in general did a lot of that for me.
Okay.
And I even had this in some of my instructions beforehand, like, hey, I might complain about it, but try to force me to eat and get this many calories and this much water down. And a lot of my support took that very seriously, and I'm grateful for that. But at the same time, at times when I was out there, I was like, look, I'm good. I just ate like 1,000 calories at that last road crossing. I'm good for a little while. But they did a great job of keeping track of like what I was eating and how much I was drinking, and they would report back to the road support, and I almost felt like I was getting told on, like, John didn't eat enough on that section.
Yeah.
And so, that was great. Because, again, that's something that once I'm out there, for as much as I do all this planning and analysis beforehand, once I get out there, it's a lot by feel. And, I've learned to trust my body and what it's telling me quite a bit over the years. And there are times where I'm like, hey, it's hot. I just ate a bunch. I need to back off on the solid food for a bit and just stick to the liquid calories or just stick to plain water. And so I do change that up quite a bit and go by feel, but I think that in general I did pretty well on that. And
Yeah.
my support did pretty well on like kind of holding me accountable for that.
Do you have a story of when you were grumpy about something out there?
Well, I think there were a number of times where, yeah, I would like leave a support point and I'd just eaten like an entire pint of ice cream and a cinnamon roll and, just completely gorged myself at a road crossing. And we get 30 minutes into the next section and they'd start trying to shove stuff down my throat. And I'm just like, no, I'm good. I'm okay. Thank you. Please don't ask again for a little bit. Don't even want to think about food.
Yeah.
But in general, I tend to shut down and like not say much and just kind of be in my own head and quiet. Or this time, even I was occasionally listening to music some. But I think I do a fairly good job of maintaining my manners while I'm out there and saying, please don't ask again. Don't ask again. Uh,
Yeah. Well, I was out crewing or pacing mostly for Nick Fowler, who got about halfway on the PCT supported record. And at one point, he was just like, "Why are you guys treating me like a toddler?" And it was like, "Yes, we're doing our job then."
Yep. Yep. And I have that in my instructions as well. Like I might hate you in the moment, but I will love you later. So uh,
Yeah. It
yeah.
is weird because you offload a lot of decisions that you would normally make once you're 5 years old or older onto other people. Like
Yeah,
finish your
for
dinner.
sure. Yeah. And there were also some times where like I was feeling really rough at the end of the day and my feet were just absolutely like it'd feel like someone was hitting my feet with a hammer every single step. And then I'd have the blisters too, and my legs would be starting to lock up and I would just be like, and mentally also, when you're kind of just like a few miles from the end of the day and it seems to take forever.
Uh
And
huh.
yeah, I keep like thinking, oh man, I must have just went like half a mile. And then I will look down at my watch. It's like 0.1 miles. What is this? And I'd be in that state, and maybe one of my support runners would be trying to talk to me, and I'd just be like, look, I, I can't talk right now. I'm just trying to get there and get to bed. Like that's the goal right now, and I'm just gonna focus on that. So, sorry.
Yeah. I also swear far out just like messes with you. Some of the point one sections are point two, some of them are point oh five. Like it drives you crazy when you're like, okay, it's point seven to the road, and it's like probably been going for 10 minutes. I should be there. It's like point six more. It's like no way.
Yeah. I did find though that I think the official AT miles are a little bit inflated. Like I
Okay.
would find that every day the official AT miles that I covered was like 2 or 3 miles longer than what my watch would say. And at first I thought that like maybe my watch is shortchanging me, but it was pretty consistent. And then like mentioning that to local support runners who knew these sections like the back of their hand, they'd be like, yeah, this section is 26 miles. And far out would say it was like 27.5 or something. So I'd rather have it that way
Totally.
than the other way around.
That had to be kind of nice in your head of like, all right, I've gone 25 miles, but probably actually 26 trail miles.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And calculating how much I had left as well, because once I got that in my head, and I would look at my watch, I would know that I'm aiming for like, say, 58 miles that day, and I'd check my watch and it'd be like, okay, I've gone 30 miles. But actually, it's probably like 31 or 32. So I only have 26 miles left, not 28. And,
Yeah,
as small as that seems, it's actually a pretty big, like, mental boost.
it's huge. You'd be an amazing through hiker because hiker math, it just permeates your life when you're out there.
Yeah. And I found for real, like, going to like mile 45 was like, oh yeah, this is easy, no problem, cool. Like I could do this and then just like chill and have a dinner and a nice evening and enjoy the night, get a full night's sleep. Then like mile 45 to 55, it'd be like, oh yeah, this is starting to get tough. And then each mile that I went above 55, it was just like each mile's difficulty was twice as much as the mile before. It was just exponential growth. So by the time if I had 60 plus mile days, by the time I got to mile 60, it was rough.
Yeah, probably just ready to pass out on the trail too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
As we move towards, I guess like the Wildcats or where things went south, what kind of happened? What led up to that? And then, I mean, it was such an effort of continually trying to go back up there, but what happened those last couple days?
Yeah, I got this issue in my left leg, which at first I thought it was just like it was sore or some minor tendonitis, and just like, hey, I'll stretch this out, I'll work through it, it'll go away after a couple days, because like probably half a dozen different seemingly just as bad things had happened throughout the attempt, whether it was like sore quads or I got like one of my Achilles on my other leg actually got really sore when I was going through Connecticut. And those things would kind of just like come and they would suck, and I'd work through them and push through it, and eventually they would go away or at least not get worse. And I just like I'd learn to deal with it every day. Whereas this one kept getting worse, and it got to the point where like I could not. I've never experienced this before. It wasn't a matter. I mean, yeah, it was painful, but like I dealt with more pain. Even like the blisters were more painful, and so ironically, the day that I quit, overall, like the blisters were starting to heal and get better, and I'd had a rest day, so like my muscles were feeling better, and it was probably like the least pain I'd been in, but I could not move my ankle. It was like, and it's not one of these things where I would try to move it and it would hurt, so it would stop. Like I would sit there and I would stare at my ankle and I'd be like, move, do something, and like just nothing would happen. Like it wouldn't even attempt to move. Like the communication had just been cut off somehow. And so that was, again, I haven't had that before. That was a bit frightening.
Yeah,
And
I'd be
it,
terrified. It's like you're
yeah.
paralyzed or something.
So, and moving through I still had Wildcats and the Hoosics left, which are super tough and steep and technical, and I flat out could not go down technical descents. Like going down from Mount Washington the day before took me like 8.5 hours,
Oh,
and yeah, and going down is when it definitely did hurt. So that's something that it wasn't. It was definitely getting worse. Like even after I rested for a day, had it worked on, and like I tried to go back out that one last time and just went like up a ski slope. And as I was going up, I could feel it getting worse, and like again losing all motion in that ankle. And I didn't want to get out there and get stuck, and like search and rescue have to come get me. My support runners have to carry me out or whatever. And it was also just like reality. I mean, worst case, I was gonna do permanent damage to my leg and like not finish, and then not be able to come back and ever finish that stretch. Best case, I was probably just gonna like hobble the rest of the way and take forever, and definitely not come in with the time that I'm capable of, or the FKT or anything, and ask my support to be out there for like a week longer than
yeah.
they kind of had planned on. So it was, I mean, it was tough, because up until like a day before that, I was like, hey, this is in the bag. Like it was just in my mind, like the finish, how it was going to go, what it was going to be like afterwards, like rejoining my family, and like everything was just in my head a sure thing. At that point, I think I was almost 3 days ahead of where Carl was, which, you can't compare like Tara or the 40-day mark. Tara was going was going southbound. But she was only about 16 hours ahead of Carl, which was about 16 hours above 40 days. So you start to do the math there, and like again, things are looking really good. And I only had to average like 44, 45 miles a day at that point to go under 40 days, which again seemed pretty easy in my head at the time. And then
Yeah, you
suddenly,
could stop early and have dinner and,
yeah,
watch the
yeah,
sunset.
all that. And then suddenly just like, no, I can't do it. I cannot move. And I was doing like, hour plus miles on some of those climbs, in the whites, like going up the AT up Wildcat, the
Yeah.
day before I stopped. That took forever. I think I had like an hour 20-minute mile at one point, because I could not push off with that ankle at all.
It's a hard mile, but not that hard.
No, no. It's I think most people hike it faster than that.
What emotions are going through your head as this injury creeps up, and then as more time goes on, you're not able to solve it? Are you getting frustrated or sad or angry? Or are you
Yeah,
what's happening?
bit of everything. Really, at first just thinking of like anything possible to still be able to continue on to get around this, and kind of exhausting all those possibilities to the point that like I'm forced to accept this. And yeah, at that point it is just enormous disappointment. I've found when I do come up short in these things, that's generally the first thing, and then at some point that does kind of transition a bit to anger, which I think helps me kind of redirect my frustration forward,
Yeah.
to whatever is coming next. So as long as it's short-term anger, I think that's for me at least a healthy thing, to
Yeah,
be
you're
able
just
to
like,
redirect that and turn it into productive thinking of like,
yeah,
all right, how can I address this? How can I move forward? How can I do better?
you're just like kicking the TV in the hotel and stuff, getting the anger out that way.
Yeah, I don't resort to the physical outlets much, particularly with the kids around. But but yeah, in my head, I'm mentally doing that.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's like when you're a teenager, you actually do it. Then you mature and you want to do it, but you
Yeah,
don't.
when I was a teen, like I have my old little league. I still have it actually. I keep it next to my bed as like my self defense thing. My little league baseball bat that
Uh
just
huh.
has like paint chips all over it. Because when I was a teenager, I would take it out back and hit gravels with it to get my
Yeah.
frustration out. So you know that can help sometimes if done in the correct way, but just yeah, not when the kids are around.
Totally. And as time marches on, and as it always does, how does the attempt and everything sit in your mind? Does it feel unfinished business as far as the FKT, or an unfinished trail as far as those 300 plus miles? How do you think of everything about a month after it?
A bit of both. It's, you know, I do, regardless of how or when I want to see those last 300 miles. I mean, to be honest, like, I know a lot of people were like, oh, he's going northbound. That's the tougher direction. He's the White Mountains of Maine. It's going to be really tough to finish that way. But, like, to be honest, I was looking forward to it. It's like the big epic finish
They're
of getting to
awesome.
do, yeah, just this awesome stretch of trail. And so I still want to experience that stretch and be able to get back and see that. The, you know, the FKT itself, I do, again, I wanted to see what I was capable of on this trail. I wanted to leave my mark on it as kind of like a benchmark for other people to shoot for. I do, in my own head, I know what I'm capable of from this, which, you know, if anything, it gives me a bit of confidence going into other things in the future. Whereas, like, getting stopped by injury, as much as it sucks to be that close and to have it within reach and then just kind of disappear, it's preferable to being just like, hey, I wasn't fast enough.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I do know what I could do. That applies to races and other shorter FKTs that I'll probably still attempt in the future. The AT itself, I mean, I did view this as like the one shot, and I viewed a lot of things like that in the past. Like my first Barkley was like, yeah, I'm gonna do Barkley one time, and that's it. I'll be good. And I've done it 8 times now. But those things, it was more of like, yeah, I think I'll only want to do them once. Whereas this one is more like, hey, I think I'll only be able to do it, like, have the time and the resources to do it once. And it's just an enormous ask of my family and support and everything out there. So whereas like I would still love to get out there and do what I'm capable of, and it is unfinished business. Like not all unfinished business gets finished, unfortunately. And you know, whereas everything I've done in the past that has been big pretty much has taken me more than one attempt to get right. Like, yeah, I got the Long Trail FKT on the first attempt before Will smashed it a year later. But like Barkley, Pennine Way, Wainwright's, Grander, like everything's taken me 2 or 3 attempts. And so when I failed on that first attempt, it's almost been like silver lining, like, hey, I'll be even better next time. Like, I'll learn from this and I'll do even better than I could have done this time. And I do feel that way about the AT. Like, hey, I can address all these things that I did wrong and I could do better than I would have done even if I had finished this time. But as to, like, whether that will ever happen, I don't know, man. That's, That's a lot to ask of a family and of life for me to be able to get that time window again.
Yeah, because you'd have to say, first I need to go up for a couple weeks and finish my 300 plus miles I haven't finished, and then I'm going to do the FKT on top of that. Then you're a 2-time finisher of the trail.
Yeah.
All right, last topic here. So I'm going to be attempting this whole self-supported shindig here in less than a week from now. What advice do you have for someone who might happen to be going self-supported on this thing headed southbound in less than a week?
Just keep at it, man. Like, I know you've done a lot of these things before. You through hiked before. You're not gonna make some of the same mistakes I did with underestimating certain sections of the trail and bits of the terrain. But it's just, even something of this magnitude, it's so easy. It was so easy for me to mentally slip into the spot of like, oh geez, there's so much left. I can't be out here this long. How am I ever gonna do this? And just zoom out, man. Like, everything that you've done, everything that has gone into preparing for it, to training for it, everything that you've done to build this capability to get to this spot, to even attempt it. Like, even 40 plus days on the trail, it's tiny compared to that. Like, it's the finish line. So just get out there and enjoy it and keep going. And yeah, there's going to be parts that you're hurting and it sucks, but those will be fleeting, both during the attempt and after the attempt. That's not going to be the stuff that you really remember. So get out there, get it done, enjoy it. I mean, to be honest, like, I still view String Bean's record as one of the most impressive FKTs out there. Like, I couldn't do the self-supported thing either physically. Like, I'm a tiny guy. Like, String Bean is a tower next to me, and or mentally, just being out there solo. So like, what you're doing is huge, man. Just so much respect and admiration for getting out there and doing it. So even though you're solo out there, just know that like there is a ton of people kind of willing you on and cheering you on, and just feel that in the moment whenever you're in those low spots. Just try to think of that energy. I even had like a little bracelet that one of my support runners in Virginia around the Triple Crown, like just before McAfee Knob, gave me, that his daughter had made. And she said never quit on it. And every time I'd hear a story or like someone cheering me on, I'd just be like, got that energy, and I'd toss it into the bracelet. And then every time I'd look down at my watch, I'd remember and I'd think of that. So just anything tangible you can have to like remind yourself of all the people willing you on. Take that.
All right, we have one last question. This is from Andrew Drummond, Will Peterson, and every other person who lives near the White Mountains. Did you underestimate the White Mountains?
I will have to get back there with a healthy set of legs to truly answer that question. Again, like, I went into it with expecting them to be tough. But I also went into them with a bit of optimism, trying to tell myself, like, nah, the Smokies are tough too. Like, the Smokies are steep and technical. And maybe I even had this conversation with Will in Vermont. I was like, I feel like there's just this Northeast bias, and like people are comparing the White Mountains to the other sections of the Northeast Trail instead of to the Smokies. And, maybe it's like not much worse than the Smokies, but yeah, it is. It definitely is. So I will have to admit that. And, if I'm up there again, I go into it with that knowledge, lesson learned the hard way.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you joining, and awesome stories and pretty fun banter along the way. So you have Tour de Jance, and then is kind of a question mark from there for the future?
Yeah, and so we'll see what happens at Tour. That's the one that like I've tried it 4 times and have not quite gotten it right. Last year I kind of had like a fairly chill summer to rest and build for Tour, and it did not work out for me. So this year I'm going the complete opposite approach and doing it after the AT. We'll see if that works. But that
A man
is
of extremes.
yeah, the speaking of the whites reminded me a lot of that, just with like the alpine rocky terrain and even the little huts through there. Like they reminded me so much of the refugios along the tour course. So that was pretty cool. And I think that like Will and Bill and John Tidd, that's they'll be right at home. Well, Bill John Tidd has done great at tour, but Bill and Will be over there as well, and I think they'll definitely feel comfortable with that terrain.
Yeah, and you put a lot into tour the last few years. So, well, thanks so much for jumping on. I appreciate it, and we'll see how this goes for me. Maybe I can stand on the shoulders of giants, just not in height.
Well, best of luck, man. Go out there and crush it.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to the episode. Consider supporting the fundraiser. I'm trying to raise $10 per every mile that I'm covering, and I don't get any money. I think they're like a charity score of an A plus because over 90% of the money goes directly to the cause of helping basically get therapy, in touch, life-saving services to, LGBTQ plus community. And this means something to me. I know it will make some people mad and rub some people the wrong way, but you know what? Over my lifetime, I've gotten death threats and people say I'm weird and I don't deserve to live and getting called out. So it doesn't matter. Take all your hate, send it my way, but we're still raising money for the people who need help the most by disabling our national suicide hotline. It's probably not a good thing, no matter what type of beliefs you have. Okay, thank you for listening. Consider subscribing, 5-star reviews, and just send all hate mail to me. I won't be reading it because I'm out on the Appalachian Trail. Stay elite, my friends.